Yassas.
Hello.
It's a great honor for us that we have in our company Jean-Michel Valette, Master of Wine, which is the chairman of the Institute of Master of Wines. Jean-Michel, welcome to Greece.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you very much.
We would like to ask you some questions about Greek wines.
Please.
All right. So, having tasted all Greek wines with the exceptions of Santorini, what are your impressions so far?
You know what I would say is the biggest impression is actually of the winemakers, because there's a real sense of life, there's a dynamic character to what we've seen. So we've tasted many wines, and with names that go from this to this to this. You know, all the indigenous varietals, blends. I think I sense that people are on an adventure, and an adventure of discovery. And, you know, yes, I have wines I remember specifically, you know, and some of them have beautiful stories of the little bits of Limnio or even Limniona.
The behind stories.
Yes, are fantastic. And, you know, I'd say if there's a general characteristic in the wines, it's one of freshness.
Right.
You know, the wines can be, you know, not only fresh, but elegant, delicate, and that's a little bit of a surprise.
Very nice. So, which varieties and styles of wine really stood out?
I'm somebody who loves the story as much as the wine. So, sometimes in combination, some of the
blended or not?
Sometimes some of the blends with Sino Mavro, you know, were very intriguing because it's you know, when you take something familiar, you know, a little bit of Syrah that is familiar, and then put it with something that's unfamiliar, you get a better sense of the other grape, of the new grape.
More complexity, possibly.
So, yeah. So those Sino Mavro was sometimes with a little bit of Cabernet, sometimes with a little bit of Syrah. I thought that was quite nice, but then
you talked about Limniona?
Yes, well, that, you know, to know that whole story of finding the new grape, of just a plant, of turning the plant into a little vineyard, and you know, and you know, I don't even know if it's true, but you know the story.
It is true. We can guarantee that this is a true story that you heard.
But you know, the story of everything not the way you would expect it. The berries being very big, the grapes not needing any irrigation because of the thick skins, of the juice being red. But then seeing, you know, we saw the other day a couple of winemakers who are, you know, making this wine, and it was beautiful. You know, they say, what did they say? Somewhere between
Pinot Noir,
a little bit.
Something with Barbera, maybe?
Yes, and I would say it's more like a very good Beaujolais. But the discovery was, again...
But very fresh.
Fresh, yes,
very fresh,
fresh.
That's right. From what you've tasted so far, which weaknesses have you spotted regarding Greek wines?
Well, you know, maybe, you know, like one saw in Portugal, you know, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when they started, you know, again, a new generation exploring a bit dynamically what could be done outside of the tradition. Or you go even California 20, 30 years ago when it was starting to do its wines. You see it in Austria when they started making red wines. I think part of the being dynamic is you get excited about oak.
Overexcited.
Yeah.
And the oak, you know, I never understand. I'm a financial person, so I would think oak is expensive, right? So when you start, shouldn't you start with a little bit and then and then go up?
Yes.
But people start with a lot and then sometimes learn with time to go down. And it was very interesting, you know, for instance, to see at the Gaia winery where we had the progression of wines over
the change of styles
over a number of years. Or in Kiriani, also a little bit. You know, they have been doing it for a longer time, and you see both wineries are trying to take the oak down a little bit. And that's a natural evolution. People will do that. And, you know, why do people do that? I guess it's fun. And maybe it's a feeling that will send a signal that my wine is serious.
Which wines did you favorite? The reds or the whites?
You forgot rosé.
Yeah. For the reds, the rosés, or the whites?
No, I can't say I did.
Okay.
The freshness of the whites is very appealing. It's very appealing. It's easy. It's inviting. It brings
Very nice to hear that.
It brings you in. The reds are a little more of an intellectual exploration and perhaps a little more serious. But that's why I like the Lignona. You know, it was just delicious. It was just simple, not complex, but approachable.
Right.
Fun.
Do you think that Greek wines can be a huge success in the international markets?
Somebody once told me, you know how to be a very smart economist? You either predict the event or the timing, but never both. So you say, yes, Greek wines will be a great success, but you don't say when.
Okay.
That's very interesting.
No, so I don't know when. Obviously, it's tough to go into the international market where there's so many wines. And I think it will be actually a little bit hard for Greek producers just because of the dynamism. You know, the people who've been successful more quickly in the export market have been producers like New Zealand that has not only chosen a variety, but specifically also a style of that variety and been very focused, or Austria with Grüner Veltliner. And here, there's many choices.
Do you think that Greece can be the new Austria in terms of exports?
Everything is possible.
Yeah.
Everything is possible. And it's like trying out these styles of the wines. People have got to try, you know, to explore different markets and see what works. My suspicion is there's too much diversity, and it won't be so easy to have that kind of strategy. But there's other advantages. You know, people are incredibly friendly. Yes. You know, and we have, you know, thoroughly enjoyed our experience with the people. Don't forget that the people is part of the wine.
The people and the story.
And or just the friendship. You know, the Italians have a great advantage, that is that all the big markets have a lot of Italian restaurants. And when you go to an Italian restaurant, you feel happy, and it's easy, and you'll try anything on the list from Italy, even if you've never heard of it. And I think the same can happen in a Greek restaurant, but there are not so many Greek restaurants. But there are parts of the world where there are Greek immigrants who have, you know, there's some in Australia, some in the U.S. And maybe that's a place. Restaurants are much more, especially high-end restaurants in the U.S. are very interested in exploring new things. We were in Macedonia.
Yeah, in Amindo.
Or just north of Thessaloniki at our lunch with the Santalis people.
Yes, yes.
And they were telling me of this great, I thought, very intelligent strategy of opening up wine bars in China.
Right.
And they were giving people a whole experience, not just here's another wine in a bottle, but come discover wine with
Different wines.
But they were participating in people's discovery, just of wine.
Would you advise the winemakers to go for indigenous varieties or international varieties? What is your feeling?
Oh, of course, I love the story of the indigenous varieties, and there's so much here and discovery and history, but that's harder.
That's harder,
It's harder because there's, you know, some people will be interested, but a very small bit of the population, and it will be uncomfortable for other people. But I was thinking, well, I was walking through the vineyards that was at the Kyriani, in those vineyards, in the Sinamov vineyards. And I was hearing the story, of the uneven ripening and the very different, personality of the wine in different parcels. And you know, it was just reminding me of the story of Zinfandel in the U.S.
In the same bunch.
And then I said, Zinfandel? You know what we call it? Zin.
Yes.
Cinnamovro. It has too many syllables.
Zin.
It is Zin.
Yes. It's Zin again.
Xin.
Very nice.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
You are welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for organizing everything, for having us here. Good luck.
Thank you.